Thank you for joining us today on Nigeria Today. We apologize for starting behind schedule. Now, it's been a tale of erratic power supply in Nigeria lately, making Nigerians to endure great deal of trouble getting steady power supply for their domestic and commercial use. It is estimated that about 43% of Nigerian population do not have access to grid electricity, making Nigeria a country with the largest energy access deficit in the world. The lack of reliable power is a significant constraint for citizens and businesses, resulting, according to statistics, annual economic losses estimated at $26.2 billion. That's about 10.1 trillion naira. Successive governments have made several efforts at ensuring constant power is made available to Nigerians, which include the unbundling of the power sector, in which the government privatized part of the power sector with the aim of promoting efficiency. Integrated power plants were also established. These efforts at the moment, however, seem not to be yielding as much result as expected with the level of on and off supply of power experienced in the country. Today on Nigeria Today, we will be discussing epileptic power supply in the country. I am Lydia Odidiochi. Thank you for joining us. Our guest today for this conversation is Jide Ojo, public affairs analyst who is joining us via Zoom. Jide, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Lydia. Good evening.
To always have you with us on the program. Thank you. I'm good. Now, first of all, I want you to tell us what is the power situation where you stay at your location.
Well, the power situation is not any better than what you experience. What is being experienced by average Nigerian. We are lucky the day we get up to 10 hours. We are excited if we are getting up to 6 or 8. The bottom line is that in my neck of wood here in Abuja, I have a prepaid meter, so I only pay for what I consume, which is not a luxury that's enjoyed by many Nigerians who are still being given crazy bills, despite the very deplorable power situation, as you have pointed out in your background. One would have expected that after the privatization exercise about a decade ago, issue of prepaid meters will have been made very a top priority. But unfortunately, we are still being served crazy bills for even lights that are not consumed. And it is very unfortunate because we have a National Electricity Regulatory Commission, which is supposed to actually protect consumer. Unfortunately, that organization has been like a lame duck, leaving Nigerians to being exploited by the discos. Unfortunately, many of the discos that were licensed to either generate or distribute electricity do not have the technical competence. They do not have the financial wherewithal, and the Nigerian consumers are made to be at the receiving end. It is very unfortunate. It's very deplorable that a country of over 200 million is celebrating less than 10,000 megawatts of electricity nationwide. And even these 10,000 megawatts, if and when they are generated, cannot be evacuated and transmitted because of our very weak transmission lines. So it's there is a lot of energy loss between the generating companies and the distribution companies. And that has explained or is explaining the deplorable situation of power supply nationally.
Okay, Jide, we thank you for your opening reactions there, but let us take this report on the situation of power supply in the country and what the residents of the Federal Capital Territory are saying. Take a look.
Some parts of Abuja have in recent times been experiencing epileptic power supply. Some who used to have 3 hours of power supply in their areas lament that power supply lasts for just 30 minutes in a day.
But what about people who cannot afford that? This is a basic thing that affects every home. Every home. And when you talk about every home, I'm talking about even to the poorest. It's either you manage to buy a pass my neighbor fuel, generator, to run, your home, or Baba's shop.
Actually buy things in bulk, put in the freezer, make some things, put in the freezer. It makes it easier for you to be able to go out in the morning. Now we buy things in bits, we can't buy in bulk, it's cheaper. So life is more expensive.
Some business owners also lament on economic downturn suffered as a result.
The light is affecting us well because early in the morning, if we come in the market in the morning before 10, 11, they will take off the light. They will not bring the light again around 5 o'clock in the evening.
They should please help us, because you pay for lights, you load card, at the end of the day you work with Jane again. It's not funny. The business is going down because when you buy that fuel at a very expensive price, they even sold 10 liters 6.5 in the market here. So just imagine when you buy fuel 6.5 on your Jane and you don't have any customer to get that money back. The business is gradually going down.
Whenever there is fuel scarcity, you discover that AEDC will not supply us light. As I speak to you now, we buy a liter of fuel 800 naira, black market. Now, businesses like mine, which is a business center, we do photocopy and all of that for 10 naira before. But as I speak to you now, it's 15 naira per copy.
They all appeal to government and authority concerned to act urgently in order to avoid negative effect, especially on the economic growth.
Yes, Nigerians, they're expressing their, can I say, discomfort over the issue of epileptic power supply. Now, just joining us in the studio is Kunle Kola Olubio, President, Nigeria Consumer Protection Network, and also member, Presidential Ad Hoc Committee on Review of Electricity Tariff in Nigeria. You're welcome to the program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Now, what can you say is responsible for the current issues in the power sector?
Well, we've seen the definition of regulatory landscape and ecosystem in the banking sector, in the health sector, where you have the CBN, you have NAFDAC, you have AMCON, assertiveness and effective regulation. What we have now is nothing but impunity. The same greed that we've been able to manage over the years. Yeah, let's agree that the power generating companies, the GENCOs, let's assume that we're indebted to them. We buy gas on credit. We buy, they generate power. When it is being transmitted, the load that's supposed to be dispatched by TCN, they usually don't dispatch. Dispatch means picking up the load. When power is generated, in between the conveyor, the main, you have upstream, downstream. The transmission company needs to use their transmission infrastructure to transmit power. That they've been doing below optimal point. Now, at the downstream, the DISCOs, we have what they call load rejection. And in the last 2 years, since 2020, people, the regulator did what they call the capping of electricity billing for estimation. And between 2020 to today, those who are paying 2.5 now are from Kubwa to Maraba, within the FCT, ADC franchise, they are paying about 8,000. So there have been growth in billing as against growth in supply. So decline in efficient service delivery while the customer billing have continued to this. And so this is not the intention of Mr. President, because knowing fully well, having been involved in several committees, the President has approved the cement concept, which is unprecedented. The World Bank loan, series of it have been approved. Money kept going into the sector. And the missing link here is that we lack regulatory assertiveness. We have a void in terms of regulation. And so where you have all the rules, you know, the business rules, the grid code, you know, service level agreement, if the regulator, what we call regulatory jumpolo, they have abandoned their job. And so what we have at the moment is impunity.
Okay.
They are not just telling the president the truth. And the president has been inundated severally with our emails almost on weekly basis. Even last week, we still had calls to write to the president, to his chief of staff and deputy chief of staff and the minister. So the president needs to act assertively now. Because you know that for your mail to get to the table of Mr. President, from my experience, you must have an insider. Because the president's job is so enormous that it's not all correspondents that get to the table of the president. So those who are supposed to allow the president to get the right briefing, now there are conflicts of interest. And Nigeria have adopted the line for the African Free Continental Trade Agreement. So, and for us to up our gain and increase our global competitive index, we need to get it right with the electricity, because the major enabler of growth. But we want to thank National Assembly giving us hope by making sure that very recently they are making a move to make sure that electricity is not generation, transmission, and distribution is not exclusive preserve of federal government, so that we can free the space. Yeah.
Let's take a break here. We'll come back. There's so much to talk about. Take a break.
This is NTA News 24 broadcasting from Abuja. You can watch us anywhere, anytime on the following platforms.
Start Times Channel 101, Freak TV Channel 703, GSTV Channel 419, and Go TV Channel 46.
For more information, log on to our website www.nta.ng or join us on our social media handles, Facebook at NTA News 24.
For comments, suggestions and inquiries, send an email to news24@nta.gov.ng or call us on the following numbers.
NTA News 24.
News and more news.
Thank you for staying with us. We're discussing epileptic power supply. This issue is really a challenge to everyone in the country. Everyone is feeling the pinch. Now, Jide Ojo, the issue has been attributed to low hydroelectric power for generation. What happens to the thermal power plants?
Well, very good question, Lydia. Very good question. For most parts, at least in the southern Nigeria part, the federal government is relying on thermal plants, the Egmi, Geregu, Omotosho, Papalanto. These are all thermal plants. And it's only up here that we talk about Shiroro and Kanji dams. So if the areas that are being served by thermal plants are also having very deplorable and low electricity distribution, then it tells you that it's not all about low water level, as the minister said last week. It's quite unfortunate. I still go back to how this is impacting negatively on the economy of the country. I do not know of any country worldwide that is powering its economy on power generators, as Nigeria is doing. Look at Ghana over there, our neighbor, with population under 30 million. Ghana is having, for many years now, a very smooth power, consumption. The same thing with South Africa.
Okay.
South Africa is a population of less than 50 million, but it is generating 40,000 megawatts of electricity.
Okay.
And that's why investors prefer to go to South Africa, prefer to go to Ghana to go and invest. This epileptic power supply has been robbing us of huge investment opportunity.
Yes, like I
what
earlier
has
said in
aggravating the cost of doing business in Nigeria.
Yes, Jude, like I earlier said in my, just like you said, it's robbing us of a lot of internally generated revenue. Now, let me go to my guest in the studio. The NNPC has expressed interest in acquiring the Nigeria integrated power plants. How far do you think this will go in addressing power generation deficit in Nigeria? Because something is fundamentally wrong.
Thank you very much. There are business models. The original concept of the National Integrated Power Plant is to have investments that we, because of the deficit of investment, it came up as intervention agency to invest, structurally in the power sector. Now, since the inception of there's a missing gap here. Since the inception of the, NIPP, Niger Delta Power Holding Company, investment made by the organization supposed to serve like a revolving fund, like what we have in the Gwarinpa housing project. There's a missing link. What Gwarinpa housing project is supposed to do, as originally designed, is that we're supposed to build, sell, and use the fund to continue to build as an intervention. Now, what we are drifting towards, we are making a lot of money from sales of crude oil because due to the increased price volatility. But if we want to sell this power plant, there's nothing bad in the NNPC coming to inject funds. But that money should not be shared by the state. It's like a revolving fund because there's a huge deficit of funds in the power sector investment. So that we should not get to a situation where we will even have to sell our houses just to fund our budget, recurrent budget or budget wastages. So it's a good omen. The original intention is to build and look for, like BOT, build, operate, and transfer to those who we manage it with using business model. Then we still want to go back to the regulator, NEC, Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission. Investment made in the distribution, transmission, and generation end of the value chain. The NEC has continued to place us on what we call in local balance is coming. We expected that NEC by now will not perpetually be talking about coming together with the cost, because the discos now have not been investing in the sector. In the FCT, for example, most of the substations are built by FCDA. Once they build it, they give it to the disco almost free of charge. Like in Kaba and so many other parts of Nigeria, you need to go around and see investment that have been made by Niger Delta Power Holding Company that the discos are even refusing to take over because they don't want their book, to be incidented based on capital expenditure. So federal government has done a lot, is a good omen, but it should not be shared like this. Okay. Pre-election year, it should be plowed back into the sector, moving to energy transition, which is renewable, which the organization is trying to do.
Let's take your final words. What are your final words to Nigerians on how long they have to cope with this situation?
Well, is that question for me and Lydia?
Yes, it's for you. What advice do you have? Your final words to Nigerians.
Okay. For me, it's quite unfortunate that despite all the incentives that the president and the federal government has been extending to discos, including payment of subsidy on this electricity, there has not been significant improvement. And I think we need to think outside of the box in fixing this energy challenge, because there is no amount of fighting poverty or unemployment that will succeed without us first solving the energy challenge. Look at the double jeopardy many Nigerians are exposed to right now. There is fuel scarcity. Even to power your generator now, you need to go and buy fuel. Now the fuel queues are as long as kilometers. And now is the peak of heat. We are yet to experience sufficient rain to douse the heat. This is even making us to be socially uncomfortable. So beyond the economic losses, we are also losing sleep. We are also not, being exposed to all manner of ailments as a result of the heat. So what the federal government needs to do is to rethink and review the agreements it has with the generating companies as well as the distribution companies, and also find a way to strengthen the transmission lines. What we have been told over time is that the transmission lines are too weak to even evacuate the powers that are generated from the GenCos. So the federal government needs to invest heavily in the transmission lines to strengthen them, so that if 10,000 megawatts of electricity is produced by the generating companies, at least we are sure that the transmission lines can transport and can transmit this energy.
Okay.
And we need to also look at modular alternative sources of energy. The federal government has been talking of energy mix, such as solar, such as wind, such as hydro, such as thermal, and all of this. It is heartwarming that the National Assembly is thinking of removing electricity from the exclusive legislative list to concurrent legislative list, which will give some states that have the resources to also go into energy production, both to produce, transmit, and distribute, which will be an additional value chain.
Okay.
So all our hands to be on the deck, but I think a lot needs to be done to reset our energy sector so that we can compete with the first world countries,
okay, now,
and solve our challenge.
Kunle, yeah. Mr. Kunle, yeah. Industry watchers have often drawn attention to the need to upgrade of power transmission and distribution equipment. What's your take on this?
We should not create a conduit pipe for the boys. We've had enough of vicious circle of injection of funds that tends to make individuals to smile to the banks. There's no approval, you can quote me, that have been requested under this regime that has not been given. So the issue is not foreign loan, the issue is not injection of funds, the issue is human element. And moving forward, the new normal now is for us to do as a matter of urgency, no longer shifting of the post, mid-term review of the privatization to break the monopoly of the definition of distribution licensing, which is at variance with the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act. It does not promote competition. This is market monopoly, and it's strangulating us. We can't break. Apart from that, again, we have installed capacity ready to peak 7,500 megawatts. And optimal capacity, that is of 13,500. The problem is not that we cannot ramp up power. The problem is great indiscipline. And so when we come to table, what Jide is saying, what I'm saying, through a midterm review of privatization, the issue of energy mix, the issue of energy transition, sector-specific generation upgrade will be addressed. These are issues that we cannot exhaust in a short breath. The president knows what to do. The president has been updated with what to do, and the time to act is now, because this is an embarrassment which is, at variance with the good intention of Mr. President and all the presidential power initiative and what have you. We need to act now and do a midterm review of privatization so that individuals will not be smiling to the bank while the economy will be at a great loss for it, and Nigerians will be distinct. We cannot even put on our AC. I was living here, we wake up in the night, we can't sleep, we go and shower, and we do what they call wash and wear.
Yes.
For you to call me and come to this studio, if I don't have clothes that they call wash and wear, so we are back to the old age. So it's quite appalling, even beyond the control of those involved. Just simple discipline of leadership from the regulator will make a change, like what is happening in the banking sector with NCC. Nigerians are spending 14 billion naira daily to buy data and reload. Who could have imagined that would have been possible? So we need to unlock the system and don't allow the individuals to benefit at the expense of the country. So that Nigeria will be great again. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Jide, on a final note, let me ask you, very, very brief now. Even with the level of power generated at the moment, what synergy does exist between the GENCOs and the TCN in transmitting what is available?
I didn't get that, please.
Yes, I said even with the level of power generated at the moment, what synergy does exist between the GENCOs and the TCN in transmitting what is available? Very briefly, please.
Well, like I've alluded to earlier on, what we are told is that the transmission lines between the GENCOs and the DISCOs is very weak and needs to be strengthened. And as you know, Lydia, the transmission lines is being held on to by the federal government. I don't know for what reasons, maybe for nationalistic reasons or for national security reasons, but I thought that should have also been equally privatized. Because right from the word go, after the privatization of the GENCOs and the DISCOs, there have been a lot of controversies about the transmission companies. Recall the controversy around Manitoba of Canada and all of that. But I think the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission needs to be alive to its responsibility.
All right.
It is sleeping on duty and needs to be woken up.
All right. Thank you very much. This is where we call it a wrap on the program. Thank you for being a part of it. We want to appreciate our two guests, Jide Ojo, public affairs analyst, who joined us via Zoom. We appreciate your contributions. Thank you, Jide.
My pleasure.
And also Mr. Kunle Kola Olubio, President, Nigeria Consumer Protection Network, and member Presidential Ad Hoc Committee on Review of Electricity Tariff in Nigeria. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And I also want to thank you, our viewer. Thank you for being part of the program. Remember, you can still watch this episode and other ones on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. Till I come your way again, I am Lydia Ochi. Goodbye.